To go further in depth on this, we're joined by health policy expert Betsy McCaughey. Betsy, as always, it's great to talk to you, and thanks for joining us here on America's Forum.
Well, let's set the stage here, because this is really a long brewing and growing problem. We now have two major political parties in this country: the Republican Party and the Banana Republic Party, formerly the Democrats. And the dividing line between these two parties is over the rule of law. The president, for example, has, with no authority from Congress, changed Obamacare, his signature health law, 24 times. 24 times he's violated the Constitution by rewriting sections of this law without the permission of Congress. And each time the Democratic politicians in Congress, even though they've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, they've simply gone along with it, saying, well, this fix is good, that fix is good, this one will benefit one segment of society, the other fix will benefit somebody else. They don't have within their value system the concept of the rule of law, that even when the actual change may benefit people, it's not within the president's authority to make that change.
Well, Betsy, let's take a look a little bit more specifically at what John Boehner said when he released that lawsuit. I have a quote statement from him, and I'm reading it here. Time after time, the president has chosen to ignore the will of the American people and rewrite federal law on his own without a vote from Congress. That's not the way our system of government was designed to work. He goes on to say, if this president can get away with making his own laws, future presidents will have the ability to as well. The House has an obligation to stand up for the Constitution, and that is exactly why we are pushing this course of action. So we talk about, hold on one second, Betsy, because, hold on one second.
Almost a word-for-word reiteration of what George Washington said. Our very first president warned there are going to be times when a future president wants more power than the Constitution gives him. And the president will even argue that maybe that changes for the good temporarily. But in the end, that argument will always reduce the freedom of the American people, because we believe in the rule of law. And that's something, unfortunately, that the politicians in the Democratic Party apparently don't believe in anymore. It's a bigger problem than just President Obama. Nancy Pelosi dismisses the concern as a distraction. Harry Reid calls this new lawsuit a show trial that ought to be heard by Judge Judy. In other words, there is a big divide in this country now, and it's a dangerous one.
And Betsy, do you think people are getting too far ahead of themselves? Of course, we had the new announcement on the Obamacare executive order on immigration, but you would say that this lawsuit, the executive action that the president has taken on this law, is something that the American public does not need to forget.
The American people, even though a majority of the American people support immigration reform, for example, broad-based immigration reform, a majority of the people also, 48% I should say, don't want the president going it alone. They don't want a dictator. Maybe you're unaware of where this term Banana Republic comes from. It was invented by a novelist named O. Henry at the beginning of the century. But what it means is a country where the top banana, the dictator, makes the laws without consulting with the people's representatives. Americans don't want that.
Yeah, we're not talking about the clothing store. We're talking about these dictatorial governments that as you mentioned, were popularized by O. Henry. So we have the Obamacare complaint. It cites two specific actions by the Obama administration, but you mentioned there are 24 other times that the law has been changed.
There are 24 times when the president has rewritten this law to suit his own preferences. He delayed the employer mandate twice. Then he announced that people could keep their non-compliant plans, even though the law said they couldn't. A lot of the changes he made, some people wanted, but that doesn't make it right. In fact, in many of those instances, Congress actually offered to pass a law to make the change, and Obama says, I'll veto that law. I want to do it myself.
More evidence, Betsy, of the president unwilling to work with Congress. We got to step aside, Betsy. Thanks for sticking around. Keep with us, because we want to talk about those fuzzy enrollment numbers for Obamacare coming up right after this. Betsy McCaughey's back with us here on America's Forum after this short commercial break.